Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with investingnews.com. I'm speaking with Patrick Elliott, President and CEO of Forte Minerals. Hi, Patrick.
How you doing?
Good to have you.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, so I guess the first question for you, you have, well-positioned assets of copper and gold in Peru. What took you to Peru?
Well, it was the untapped resources. Peru got a really late start with exploration, whereas other countries in South America have been heavily stomped on by a lot of explorers and predecessors and whatnot. But, the mineral belts of the Andes extend right up into Peru. And 2005, we moved up into Peru, opened up an office there, and we had success right out of the gate. We partnered on the Zafranal project that Teck is now putting into production. It's a pretty phenomenal porphyry copper moly story in the Paleocene belt of southern Peru. So, it's been about 20 years that we've been exploring with various companies, but the models still remain the same, whereby we deploy some pretty unique discovery and exploration techniques in order to find high sulfidation and porphyry copper systems, and we advance them and sell them.
I think one of the most one interests investors in a company when they're looking at it is their team. Do you want to talk about some of the people that's behind the leadership team of Forte Minerals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we believe we have the best exploration team in Peru. It's over 215 years of combined Peruvian exploration efforts. Manuel Montoyo, previously with Teck and Caminco before that. He's our exploration manager and general manager in Peru, and he's made several discoveries. He understands the Peruvian geology exceptionally well, and it goes beyond the technical aspects. We got a strong technical team, but what's really important in Peru is the environmental, the social engagement, the permitting, and managing all those, within, the same team, the geological team. So what we've done there, which is fairly unique for a junior, is we brought in-house social efforts and environmental efforts. So we have a dedicated social team that work on various properties to help move them forward and drive the permitting and the relationships and that overall commitment to ESG and sustainability and developing those relationships with the communities. It's very important in Peru. The permitting takes can take several years, and it's important to be efficient and to have an adequate outcome.
Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about the fairly fresh news that you just released, and that's the acquisition of 2 new projects in Peru. Could you provide some information, some of the highlights of that acquisition?
Well, yeah, I mean, Alta Ruri, we announced this news this morning. It's a highly sought-after project. This is a project that was staked in competition with several other major mining companies. Previous to that, it was drilled many years in the late 90s. It was drilled by Buenaventura, and you can see the first hole had phenomenal gold results, 131 meters of 2.55 grams from surface. This includes 54 meters of 5.4 grams from surface. So, fairly phenomenal grades and a high sulfidation system, but this one's special. It was highly sought after. It took us about 10 years to negotiate, deal with an outcome. And we're happy to report that we have 100% of this project moving forward. We acquired it from our strategic project generator that has a major interest in Forte equity. So those shareholders will realize the value in it. And and we only paid $25,000. And people look at it and it's like, well, that seems awfully cheap. How did you get such a good property for $25,000? It's because that's what our partner had spent on the project, and that's what we contributed back to them. They'll realize the value within their shareholdings of Forte. So a really good deal to have that. We left 1% NSR on the table for Hochschild, and that was done with their subsidiaries. So this Ultra Ruri project is 15 kilometers south of Barrick's Pierina mine. Barrick's, they've mined, over 8 million ounces out of there. It was a substantial deposit discovered by David Lowell and Catherine McLeod-Seltzer through Airkeeper Resources back in the 90s. And if we recall, this is like 25 years ago now, but Barrick paid 1.1 million Canadian dollars for Airkeeper Resources for this project. It's tier 1 discovery at the time, and it's been in production for about 20 years. So Barrick's had some phenomenal relationships in the community, done great work, great operator there. So we're looking forward to working with the people.
So there's 2 properties that are associated with this acquisition. Could you talk a bit more about the CUAU, the second one?
Yeah, certainly. It's important that with 4,700 hectares that we now control under this new acquisition, but beyond the high sulfidation epithermal gold project that we just discussed with those incredible intercepts, there's also a porphyry copper gold system. No, certainly it's an exceptional land package of 4,700 hectares. I've told you about this high sulfidation with incredible gold intercept from the first hole. Lots more work to be done there to help define a gold resource, but off to a really good start. There's also a porphyry gold copper moly system that Anglo explored. You'll see it in the press release. They drilled 5 holes into this in 2004. The best hole was 200 meters of 0.5 grams gold and 0.1 copper. So it's a classic porphyry. It's about 3 to 4 kilometers away from this. So we'll be working both the porphyry, gold, copper, and the high sulfidation and gold project here. So really, truly a phenomenal acquisition. I need to commend our partners at Globetrotters for persevering through this 10-year period to be able to come out on top and acquire this for us. And we're excited to have historically drilled and discovered, and now have de-risked the exploration risk for our shareholders.
You've made up a good point about acquiring properties at a significantly low cost. Could you talk about some of your strategies and how you've been successful in doing these strategies?
Certainly, yeah. It's roughly 20 years that we've been in the country, and there's low times and high times in these cycles, and really, through the low market times, we thrive on property acquisition, deals, negotiating, because that's usually around a time where other companies are relinquishing properties. A lot of the majors go through these periods whereby exploration gets the first cut, and so they might relinquish some or all of their exploration assets, and sometimes their teams. And so we remain very flexible to be able to pick properties up for nothing. Sometimes we stake them in competition after they're dropped, or properties that we've previously worked on with Teck or Anglo or others that certainly come available. And these take years and years for these types of opportunities to happen. But when you can act quick and be on top of it when they get dropped, there is opportunity to pick them up. But predominantly our model is discovering through remote sensing. We've made 5 or 6 remote sensing discoveries from space using satellite image data, and Peru works really well. It's a phenomenal place to deploy this technique because there's not a whole lot of vegetation cover in the Andes. So the argillic and phyllic alteration that you see through the Acers lights up like a Christmas tree. And it comes down to how you massage and filter the data. And Richard Osman, our geophysicist and director of Forte, he developed a program for Anglo, and that's essentially why we started in 2008 in Peru with this model. And so there's been a lot of really interesting projects that have generated out of this. The challenge is logistics, remoteness, and just finding the time and the team to go in and follow up on hundreds and hundreds of anomalies that we've depicted and highlighted. So we prioritize them, and maybe in a year we might get to 10 or 12 new ones, but it takes a while to follow up on them. But it's a phenomenal way to acquire properties for nothing and for staking, and it's also why we spent 15 years doing this model, and now at the right time to spin out these properties out of Globetrotters, take Forte public. We're ready to drill them, and as you can see today, we made a pretty phenomenal acquisition on this gold thing that it has taken about 10 years to uncover. So it's a combination of all these things, a testament to our team. And it's not just technical. We brought in Ricardo Labo, who's the ex-vice minister of mines. He's one of my advisors. He works with our group of companies. He's been integral with our permitting, our social strategy, and not only like the political advisory, but also an ESG advisory as well. Tom Hendrickson, who's very well known in the country, he's made 5 discoveries there. He's an advisor. Richard Osman, I mentioned. It's the team goes on, but more importantly, I brought on a lead energy advisor on ESG, a gentleman that I went to undergraduate school with that spent a lot of time working for Canadian Solar, and one of their main focuses was electrifying and bringing solar power to small communities that needed it and didn't have it. So we're working on some programs right now with the Canadian government to attract capital in order to supply backup or primary power through solar to small communities in Peru. And it's quite an exciting project that I've never been involved in, and not many juniors would get involved in, but we have the skill set and some of the human resource in order to do that with Mike Carter's contacts.
So your team have done a tremendous job in acquiring assets, copper and gold. There are other assets that you're focusing on. Can you tell me about some of that as well?
Right. So we have 2 never been drilled projects that we talked about that we've received the DIA drill permits for. One's a porphyry copper moly, Esperanza, in the Paleocene belt of southern Peru. This is like elephant country where some of the world's biggest copper mines are. And fortunately, Peru is the number 2 producer of copper in the world, and so many more deposits remain to be found and developed. So it's a very good place to be. And the other one is that high sulfidation gold in Puno called Pucarini. So those will get drilled this year. And one of our other historically drilled discovered porphyries is up in northern Peru copper belt. And we have an option to earn 60% interest on this with Alta Copper. It's a tremendous porphyry copper gold system that was drilled by Buenaventura and Newmont back in the 90s. And when I mention those companies, you think gold, right? And in fact, they were looking for gold in the 90s, and the grades were too low, and it turned out to be a porphyry copper gold system that we're looking at, which was higher grade copper and a byproduct gold credit as well. So this project has about 13 shallow holes in it. Like I said, it was drilled in the 90s, very long ago. The government held it within their archive, and then it was sent out for auction. But we were lucky to get an option on this property, and we're working with the communities and engaging with the DIA studies at this point to try and further that property around. But it really looks like it has the tonnage, the grade, and the size to be a player in development in the porphyry copper story in Peru. So quite a phenomenal project. But just to wrap up, there's two historically drilled projects that have helped de-risk the discovery stage, and then two never been drilled, a porphyry and a high sulfidation that we plan on drilling this year. So, the story with Forte is just really getting going here. It's waiting for drill permits and then having the opportunity to get out there and prove to the market and the investors and our shareholders that we can add significant value to them.
So we're here at PDAC, and you've done a great job in sort of providing some overview of your company and your assets. If you're talking to an investor today, what makes Forte Minerals a compelling investment opportunity at this time?
Well, that's a great question. And the reason really why we got into this business was we figured we had an edge, a unique technique in order to apply there. Plus, with the team and the long tenure in the country, we recognize there's a lot that remains to be explored and discovered. But ultimately, there's a big void in the pipeline copper projects that need to go into production. And you've heard this time and time again, that some of the world's bigger copper mines are coming off production or coming to the end of their useful mine life, mining lower grade ores, and we're not seeing enough new development production stories come on stream. So there's an inflection point that's really hinging this supply demand curve that's going to be real. We might see it sometime late next year or 2025, but we don't know where the copper is going to come from. And so it's simple. Our strategy and model is to fuel pipeline projects for the mid-tiers and majors that they can take on through feasibility into development and production and fill that void. So it's exciting because the major copper producers and major coppers, they're hungry. They recognize that they haven't been doing enough exploration. When times are tough, they got rid of their exploration projects, and now they're scrambling to look for even earlier stage exploration plays so that they have that production profile in the future. But we'll see a lack of copper production, for 5 to 10 years before we catch up with it. And so what is it that puts upward pressure on copper price? And we're very bullish on gold too. It's, kind of goes hand in hand in Peru. And, we're in a very compelling position to be able to take advantage of this next market.
Well, thanks, Patrick, for taking the time and joining me today.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone, for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insight. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates and interviews. See you next time.